What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Alex here from Team Generations, and today we are back again with another deck profile. Today we're going to be talking about Mordred and Revengers. So recently I've been seeing a couple different builds. I've watched like streams where people are playing like the regular Mordred build kind of with the old domain, kind of 5Ks, things like that, and just kind of thin your deck out a bit, which that is all good and dandy. Like, you honestly can play that playstyle still, but I really think you're missing out on some of the key support that we did receive over the past few sets that actually meld really well into this deck together with the new Dragruler Phantom. So in this profile I'm going to be showing you my kind of like hybrid list and why I believe that is the superior list to be running to some of the older Mordred ones. So yeah, let's hop right into it. And right before we jump into it, I just wanted to quickly mention that if you are interested in purchasing any of the cards that you see here today, you can shop through our TCG player link down in the description below. Help support the channel, absolutely no cost to you. Also, if you are enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like on the video, possibly consider subscribing to the channel. We also have a Twitter now too, so you can go check us out over there too, get a little bit more, personal with us. But overall, let's hop right into the grade 3. So starting off, there is no surprise here. I'm still going to be running 4 of our Mordred, and honestly, I feel like Mordred is still the backbone of this deck in a lot of different ways. Let's go over its skills first and I'll explain why. So Illusionary Revenger, Mordred Phantom, auto on Vanguard Circle. When your Blaster Dark is placed on rear, you get an imaginary give force. So this is a force spamming deck, and its second skill, auto on Vanguard Circle. When it attacks, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, counter +1, stand all of your Blaster Darks, and they get an additional 10k until the end of turn. So multi-attack here, spamming those markers. I know there are things in this game now that kind of remove markers, so this deck is very susceptible to things like that, but that's honestly where Dragruler Phantom comes in. And I think the real key here is to know when to stay on Mordred necessarily and when to go into Dragruler Phantom. Because I think that really just, there's points where like you'll spam, like maybe you'll have a turn and it's not the greatest, you'll have only 3 markers from this guy. Maybe it's worth it just to go into Mordred again to build up like 5-6 markers if that's the way the game can kind of play out. Obviously if you're playing Chaos Breaker, don't do that kind of stuff, but overall I feel like a good player will know when to stay on Mordred compared to when going into Dragruler Phantom. But very simple kind of plain skill. We do want to gain those and spam those force markers. Next up over here, I am technically running this at 4. I feel like I could drop this to 3 if I really wanted to, so if you don't have that 4th copy, maybe, I don't think you're in trouble. But we're going to be running 4 of the new card, Revenger, Dragruler Phantom. So, whole lot going on with this card. Let's dive right into it. Auto, when this guy is placed on Vanguard Circle by riding a unit with Revenger in its card name during the ride phase, search your deck for up to 1 card with Revenger in its card name, call to Rearguard Circle, and shuffle your deck. If your opponent's damage zone has 4 less cards, we Soul Blast 1 Illusionary Revenger, Mordred Phantom, and then we ping them 1 damage. Its second skill, auto on Vanguard Circle. When this guy attacks, Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, choose all your front row rear guards with Revengers in their card name and Blaster Dark. Retire all of your other rear guards, and then for each rear guard retired, all your front row units gain an additional 5k. And if 3 or more units were retired, we restand our front row rear guards. So obviously we're not getting another multi-attack out of our Vanguard here in either of our ride targets here, but overall pinging them for a damage is actually really big and kind of puts a lot of pressure on, because by the time you ride this guy, I mean, you should have 3 to 4 to 5, even more kind of force markers if the game really went in your favor. And just, if they're at 4 damage, all of a sudden, boom, you ping them to 5. It's like they have to guard absolutely everything, and we're going to hit them like a truck. So unless they have something that kind of disrupts, like maybe the new Witches stuff or whatever, in V-Series, it's kind of rare to have that. So pretty difficult kind of thing to get around. And the nice thing about this too is it actually kind of buffs up your rear guards a little bit more. So I know it does cost a Counter Blast and a Soul Blast, but honestly in this deck I think we're fine on resources. In general, there's not too much that shreds them, and there's stuff that kind of replenishes our soul in here. So I don't think the cost is super heavy overall, but overall just restanding with that extra 15k feels so much better. And the fact that you can go search out another kind of card just to put it in the back so you're not hard negging from your hand. And this whole deck is really about satisfying this skill, and there's so many ways to just pop Revengers on your field. It makes it so easy. So this guy's skill feels not free necessarily, but a lot less heavy than it reads. So I really do like this card. I think that it is a great finisher. I think the key again is to know when to ride him and when to stay on Mordred. So I feel like that just comes from time and seat on this deck. Sometimes you make the wrong play and you'll see that afterwards, just kind of learn from those mistakes and maybe move on to the next game. But hopping into our grade 2s now, very important card, Blaster Dark. So obviously we need this to go get the Dragruler Mordred Phantom kind of live and just spamming those force markers. So as many as these guys we can fit in the deck, we're going to do it. 4 of, when placed, Counterblast on Van or Rearguard Circle. Your opponent chooses one of her rear guards and retires it, and then act on Van. If your opponent has no rear guards, discard a card from our hand, and this guy gains an extra drive. It's okay, we don't really want to be riding it, we don't really want to be popping it off for its skill, we just want to kind of conserve our Counterblast for other means necessarily. I mean, it's tough, certain situations you'll want to pop them, but other situations, won't be the biggest deal in the world. But for that guy, it is what it is there. And then next up over here, I know this is unfortunate, and this is another VR. This was the only time they really did this early into the V series, but this is going to be Nullity, Revenger, Masquerade. So Masquerade is super important to this deck and actually combos with some of the new pieces pretty well. Its skill auto on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle. When placed, look at top 7 cards from your deck, reveal up to 1 Illusionary Revenger, Mordred Phantom, or Blaster Dark from among them, put them into your hand, shuffle your deck, and if you put a card into your hand, retire one of your rear guards. Its second skill continues on Van or Rearguard Circle during the battle of attack the Vanguard. This guy gets an additional 3k, so at least forcing a hit onto a force body if need be. What you really want to do is ride this on your grade 2 turn with nothing else on the board, because it's not a cost that you retire something, it's just like that's part of the skill, and we do as much of the skill as possible. So if nothing's on your board, pop that down, search the top 7, which is pretty deep for those two different units, add one to your hand, whichever one you need, and then you don't retire anything. Later on into the game, if you need to retire something, that's fine. This actually pairs up with the grade 1 that came out at the same time. This actually pairs up with another grade 1 that came out a little bit later, so I'll kind of just mention that as we go along. But searching consistency, gaining that tiny little bit of power, at least for some hit pressure, is good, and it still has that Revenger name, so if you need to restand him later on, Dragruler can do that. Next up over here too, a card that was just too free not to include. I feel like this is going to be Dark Cloak Revenger Tartu. So Tartu is awesome. Kind of gets you what you need in the moment, and again, it has that Revenger name. So when this unit is placed on Van or Rear from hand, you Soul Blast 1, search your deck for up to 1 grade 1 or less card with Revenger and its card name, call to Rearguard Circle, shuffle your deck. At the end of turn, retire that unit. So this is actually pretty big because it could search out a grade 1 that we need to potentially spam some more of our force markers. It also can just create like some on-hit pressure with the grade 1 that it searches, just thins your deck out. The Soul Blast it might seem a little bit heavy at times, but again, there's going to be something that kind of replenishes that actually like lends itself to like being really actually good in this deck. So I do like this deck thinning. It's a great target overall. You know, Van or Rear, you could ride this, you can go search things out and create that little pressure, create that little board that you need maybe to satisfy the Dragruler skill, whatever the case really is. And then lastly, I tried, you could run 4 of her, but I'm just trying like 1 of this guy, and I find that it does work pretty well. This is Overcoming Revenger Rukia. So his skill, auto when the sky is rode upon with the unit with Revenger in its name. Look at 3 cards on top of your deck, choose up to 1 card Revenger in its name, grade equal or less than your opponent's Vanguard from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, put the rest on your bottom of your deck in any order. So again, little top deck manipulation is always good, possibly digging a little bit deeper into the deck just to get that stuff, and that's really the theme of this deck, thin out your deck. Make sure that, you know, we're not getting triple drive or anything like that, so as thin as the deck can be is great because we're attacking multiple times in here. So its second skill continues. If you have a grade 1 Rearguard with Revenger in its card name in the same column as this unit, gains an additional 5k. No big deal there. I mean, it is what it is. It's nice just to have that, but really is not a deal breaker in this deck, or, you know, a game changer. Next up over here is such a critical card. You really need 4 of these guys. This is oldie but goldie. This is going to be Transient Revenger Masquerade. So Masquerade is huge, and like I was saying before, it really does pair up with a lot of these, but let's go over its skill first. Act on Rearguard Circle, Counterblast 1, put this into your soul, call Blaster Dark from your drop zone to Rearguard Circle, and that unit gets an additional 5k until the end of turn. During the battle, this unit boosted, it gets an additional 3k, so making an 11k body, which was like something I think they were really going for early in the V series, but they kind of abandoned it later on. This guy is just great for replenishing our soul, making sure that we gain markers over and over with our Blaster Darks. The nice thing about this too is that you can call this off of the grade 2 Tartu, which is, you know, typically not something you do in the regular Revengers, but in this build, it could just basically, for a Soul Blast and a Counterblast, essentially the Soul Blast is free. For just 1 Counterblast, you're essentially spamming another force marker, which is huge. You know, that's a big 10k out of somebody's hand and could make the difference. And then giving that extra 5k to it, that really ends up being like almost at least 1 card to guard kind of deal. To make equal. So I really do like this card. Helps you hit those magic numbers, helps you spam those force markers, and is very good overall. Next up over here too, another card that's super solid. I think that you just really need this in a 4-up, and anything that kind of spams a Revenger or has that kind of name or theme going on. This guy's going to be Dark Armor Revenger Renal. Its skill auto on Van or Rearguard Circle when this unit attack or the attack it boosted hits a Vanguard. We look at the top 3 cards of our deck and then choose up to 1 card with Revenger in its card name from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So again, a little bit of that top deck manipulation, which is good. And its second skill, when this guy is retired from Rearguard Circle by your card's ability, Soul Blast 1, and your opponent chooses 1 of their rearguards and retires it. The second skill doesn't come up as much in this deck as it does in the regular Avengers, to be honest, but still an option there, and you can really start to delete your opponent's board with with this, with their Blaster Dog, if you really wanted to go that route. So that option is available for you if you want that more kind of control play style. But overall, just the on-hit pressure of this early game throws off your opponent. Late game, if these guys sit on the board, they're still doing their thing. You know, it makes it really tough. So overall, I do like this card. I think it digs into your deck, gets you, you know, just at least going not neg from hard calling from hand and stuff like that. So I really do like that. And then next up over here too, with all that consistency that we already have, we are still able to run 3 of our Brandwin, and you can make this 4 if you really want, but I chose to run one other thing over here. But Brandwin's just the top 5 searcher, so you pop them down from hand. Look at the top 5, add a grade 3 to hand. If you added a grade 3, you discard a card, which is fine in this deck. Honestly, there's stuff that obviously recurs with our Nullity Revenger Masquerade, the grade 1 guy. The second skill continues during your turn. If your drop has 3 or more grade 1s, we get to have an extra 5k on this. Not a huge deal, but again, magic numbers are nice, and this guy helps us hit that, so 3 of those. And then I'm choosing to run 2 of our next guy over here, and this guy actually comes in really clutch, and I'll show you why. So this guy is Self-Control Revenger Rakia, I think that's how to say it. Auto and Soul once per turn when you grade 3 unit with Revenger and its card name is placed on ban from rotting at grade 2. Search your deck for up to 1 grade 1 Revenger in its card name and call it to rearguard circle as rest, and then shuffle your deck. Its second skill, act on rearguard circle once per turn. Soul Blast 2, choose a grade 2 with Revenger in its card name from your drop, and then call to rearguard circle in the same column as this unit. So this is really cool because if you're actually riding onto, let's say you rode the Nullity Revenger Masquerade, you know, you did that, and then boom, the grade 3 comes on top. I mean, later on into the game, I mean, yeah, the top search is what it is, but later on to the game, if you rode this and this is in your soul, you pop this down on rear, you're going to Soul Blast this out. You can call it out again and again. This is another top 7 search for some of those key pieces that you need. So I really do like that little combo over there. I think it just makes it kind of worth it. And so much of this Revenger stuff kind of just melts together in ways you don't expect. So that pretty much does it for the main deck outside of, let's see if I got it over here, just a starter. Could be any starter, should be full bow, but I just didn't have one available laying around. So I'm just using Drag Prince Root over here. But again, any starter works for these series. Let's pan out now and get into the triggers. Starting off with our trigger lineup over here, no surprise really, this should be 4 of our Heal Guardians. So Heal Guardians are important in the game right now. We don't want to take too much damage too early. I think you want to keep it by the time you get onto grade 3 to like 2 counterblasts, unless you like have a bunch of the grade 1 Revenger, the Nullity guy in your hand with Blaster Dog to kind of combo off. That's the only time I would say maybe a little bit more, especially if you're going first, you really want to keep it at 2. So I think Heal Guardians are very important for this, and in all honesty, this kind of would be reversed, but right now I'm running 4 of the Crit Sentinels. These would be the Draw Sentinels. I just didn't want to buy my 5th freaking playset of it. So overall, I would, I think, do 5 draw and then 7 crit overall. And I do have that here. I kept the ratio the same, even though like I would swap 4 of these for 4 of the draw PGs and keep 1 extra draw. And then, you know, these would all be the regular crits. I just, again, didn't have that extra playset, but I think this is the right ratio. I think you do want a little bit more draw in here just to draw into the key pieces, and having 4 of the Sentinel and 1 extra guy is not really going to change anything. And I think in any deck that relies off multi-attacking and hitting like a truck, I think you can actually run a bit more draw just because, you know, the crit pressure is going to be there already because you have Nullity Revenger, the not Nullity Revenger, sorry, the new Dragruler Phantom. He's pinging them for a damage, so their chances are they're going to be at 5 by the time you're really going for your blowout turn. So I think draws are actually pretty important in this deck. I think 7 crit just puts on enough pressure in general. You can go 8, 4, 4 if you really want to, but overall, that's kind of my recommendation. Let me know your comments down below. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below. Just trying to get through a bunch of decks, so I'm not really going to do a test hand on this. I think it's pretty simple gameplay, in all honesty. There are a lot of things you can do in here. I feel like a lot of this also requires like an opponent to showcase the true potential of this deck, but overall, I actually really like this deck. I think this is actually, like, if it had a restanding Vanguard, it would definitely be like tier 1, but at the moment it's probably like tier 1.5. You can get away with a lot of stuff here. It has its weaknesses, like if you get your markers taken away, but overall I feel like not a lot of decks can handle the power of this deck over here, the consistency that it really brings. And I think just not including the general Revenger support is such a mistake. You can go into the general Mordred build if you really want to. That's completely fine. I tried this, but I really think this deck came to life with some of the Revenger support. So thank you guys again so much. If you guys have any comments, let me know down below. This is Alex from Team Generations signing out.